Well, hopefully you now have a running application that says hello to you, but it's a little better than the basic hello world. It does have a button with an event handler in there. Well, the last thing we want to talk about is LogCat. And we did mention LogCat a few videos back. We saw that, at least with my Eclipse session, it asked me whether I wanted to enable it, and I said yes. But we didn't really look at it and talk about what it does. Well, in Android, if we want to log any kind of output, well, the right way to do this is to use the android.util.log class. And it's got several methods that we can invoke. For example, if we call log.v, then we are logging a message, a verbose message, to the logging system. If we call log.d, that would be a debug message. I for information, W for warning, and E if it's an error message. So each message that you log, you can specify the category of the message it is. So something that really went bad should be logged as an E, as an error message. If it's just something that's a little bit more informational, maybe that's a V, a verbose thing, or maybe just an information thing. Just kind of depends on how you categorize those messages that you're logging out. Whenever you call any of those methods, there's two arguments that you need to pass in, both strings. The first thing we pass into any of these methods would be some sort of a tag that says this is the activity, this is who's calling this. This is important because the log gets filled up with all kinds of information, and so you want to be able to narrow it down and search for your activity and the log messages associated with it. And so that's the first argument, was typically just a string that identifies which activity is invoking the log, or is logging this message. Then that second argument would be the actual message you're trying to log itself. So the message you're logging. There's another way to do this. There's a log.println method. And so you can call that, instead of calling v, d, I, w, e, instead of calling those methods, we can simply call log.println. It takes three arguments. The first argument would be the priority. So you'd say log.println, pass in verbose, and then pass in the tag, and then pass in the message. I always just use the appropriate one of these instead. That way it's really clear to, I don't know, maybe it's clear either way. I'm used to using these log.v or log.d kind of things. It's less typing, I guess. As far as that tag is concerned, that first parameter that you pass in, most developers, what they do is they define a static final field in their class that call it tag, and they set that equal to whatever tag name they want to associate with their log messages. So it's very typical to see this in your Android activities, a static string, static final string perhaps, that has a tag defined inside of it. If the LogCat's not currently visible and you want to see the LogCat window, maybe you shut it down or something like that, you can always in Eclipse go to Window, then Show View. Under the other option, look for Android and then LogCat, so it's buried down underneath that. It's probably already visible for you, but in case you can't see it or can't find it, maybe you shut it down, you can bring it back up. The other thing I want to mention with LogCat is that it's got a number of, if we look down here, it's got all these messages that have been logged to it already. It's got ways that we can interact with it. For example, you can search. So I can type in maybe a string that I'm looking for, maybe the word emulator. And anytime the word emulator shows up inside of the messages, now only those would be displayed. So it kind of eliminates any messages that that don't contain that string that I'm searching on. Another thing you can do is in the drop down here in LogCat, you can choose which kinds of messages you want to see. Maybe you only want to see errors, or you only want to see debug information, that kind of stuff. So only see errors. If we go to, actually, I'm saying this a little bit, I'm not saying this quite right. If I choose error, it only shows me errors. If I choose warn, it shows me warnings and above, so warnings and errors. If I choose info, it'll show me info and above, info, warning, and errors, and so on. So debug would be debug, info, warn, error. Verbose would be all of them. You can use the save diskette here to save this off to a file. Maybe there's so much in there you want to look at it in a different editor. Something I do often is I clear the log. There's a little X here so I can clear out this window. And I probably shouldn't have cleared that so quick. You can also create filters here. As you can say, only show me those log messages that have a particular log tag, for example. And so that's very helpful as well. So what we're going to have you do is do a little bit more coding here. Not a lot. We're going to have you add an extra import into your code. Oops, let me try that with a box here. An extra import in. We're also going to have you define that tag, that static string. And then we're adding just another line here at the bottom inside of our listener. We're going to log in the verbose mode here the name that was typed in. So we should see that displaying itself in LogCat. So please add these 3 lines of code into your activity, save it, and then go ahead and run it on the emulator again. So go ahead and choose that run option again. And once you do, type in your name, hit say hello, I think is what the button was called. And what you should see is in LogCat, you should see this message displaying. Name equals and whatever name you typed in. I'll do it real quick and do a demo, and I'll pause the video while I do that. So one moment, we'll see that in action. All right, folks, I'm back. I went ahead and typed in those 3 lines. So I have the import of Android util log. I've got the tag defined, and now every time the button is clicked, we're going to do a verbose log, passing the tag as the first argument, and then a little label name equals, and whatever was typed in as the name is the second argument there. So let me go ahead and do a run. We'll go ahead and launch that back out on the emulator again. That'll restart the application on the emulator. And once that gets going again, hopefully when I type in my name and hit say hello, we'll see some information displaying down here in LogCat. So I'll do a Jamie again. I'll click on say hello. And yay, good. Down here, it's a verbose message. So there's the V. There's the timestamp. And my PID was 1107, my process ID. The application, example, hello Android. That was our package we had. The tag, hello Android activity. And the text was just name equals Jamie. So hopefully you get a chance, or I encourage you to try this out on your systems. Add those in. Play with LogCat. Maybe mess around with the filtering. Look and see what's visible there now. Clear out the log. Experiment. Play. Have fun. Getting your hands on the keyboard is how you really do all this learning. This actually does wrap up the chapter itself, the lecture itself. So hopefully we've given you a good introduction to Android as far as this getting started chapter is concerned. In the next video, we're going to have some exercises for you to work on. And so you'll have a chance to get your hands on the keyboard even more and add to this little example we've built up, and also actually build something new as well.